Welcome to the 2017 Rich Engel Classic. I'm Troy Becker, the head men's cross country coach at Cedar Falls High School. This is Don Williams, the head women's coach. Hot 89-degree day here today, Don, but I think we're ready to have some great performances.
I think so. The girls are fired up and ready to compete.
So let's go ahead and get going with the varsity race. This is the start line at the Rich Engel Classic. 22 teams are running this year at the varsity division in both the men and the women races. And one thing we like about our course is, as you can see, we have a nice wide finish line that really gives the opportunity for athletes to get out and get in position. It's about 600 feet to that first turning point, and there's your pack, Don.
Yeah, they like to get out fast. We have a tradition of getting out and getting into position fairly early in the race. So I'm real proud of our girls for the way they get started.
And on our course, that can be a little bit more important, because what the fans at home are going to see here in a minute, they're going to come to this first point, and that's where they're going to turn left. And honestly, the course is going to narrow up to about 10 meters wide at that point. And if you don't have yourself in position, then basically what happens is you might get a little bit of a bottleneck and lose some precious time that you don't want to lose. So it's important to get out and get yourself in position. Here the athletes are going down. They'll make their first trip around the ball diamond at Bertzel Park. So fortunate to have that as our course, Coach.
Right. One of the girls that has been a leader for us all season long is a sophomore, Mackenzie Michael. She likes to get out in the front and lead our pack. She does a great job here, getting out in that top 4 or 5 girls. Just an outstanding athlete this year. She's finished 3rd at our first meet at Ames and 2nd at last meet at Marshalltown. And we're looking forward to her leading our pack again tonight.
Also a tremendous track athlete. I know she set the school record in 800 meters and amazing enough was a state champion last year in that event, which is a tremendous accomplishment anytime you can be a state champion. They're coming around the corner here. This first little section of the course is kind of rolling hills, which can be challenging. You got some ups, some downs as you go around the course and the ball diamonds and so forth. As you look at the total course, basically what we are fortunate to have is kind of a setup of about a 1.5 mile loop. 5K is what our athletes will run, which is 3.1 miles. And that course is basically just a little bit over 1.5 miles. With the 2 starts and with the start and the finish worked into it. And they're going to come around here and they're approaching the half-mile point is coming up here in about another 40 meters or so. And as you can see, by the time they're out in a good aggressive time, you're going to have your leaders go through here at the half-mile in around 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Is that about where you want Mackenzie at, Coach?
That's right. She's about right on pace. She's 3rd at that point in time, and Anna Hertz is not too far behind. Jessica Van Dorn's right there, Caroline, Paige. So we've got a good pack at this point in the race. There's Madison finishing strong. We probably have all our top 5 and the top 20 athletes at this point.
So what you're looking for at home, Cedar Falls is in the red tops. They have black shorts. They have Cedar Falls written kind of in small letters on the front with a CC. The number's kind of blocking that up there. But I'm impressed with where your ladies are right now, Coach. I mean, it's obviously you're one of the top teams in the state, and right here you're putting yourself in a position to compete in this meet, which has some very talented teams here with Dubuque Senior and Wahlert, Hempstead, yourself, Decorah. Decorah is very high ranked in 3A, so it's a very challenging meet for you.
Yeah, they're on the 4A rankings. They're 4th, 5th, and 6th ranked teams here, and the 1st and 2nd ranked teams in the 3A. So it will be a close race.
And there you can see some of the 4A rankings throughout the state, and you know the Mississippi Valley Conference, which we're a part of, is obviously very well represented there when you look at Iowa City West and Hempstead and Senior and yourself. So it's a very good group of conference teams once again.
Other than Mackenzie, we don't have really a top 35 individually ranked athlete on our team, but our pack of 4 that follows her are always staying fairly close together, and that's what brings a lot of our success. We have our 4th and 5th runner up there ahead of a lot of the other teams' 4th and 5th runners, so that's our strength.
And we mentioned that it was 89 degrees out at the course today, and as you can also see, and the fans know at home, we've been in a dry spell, so the course is pretty dry and hard right now. Times are going to be a little bit slower today because of the rolling hills, because of the heat. And you know, most years I remind fans, if you're looking at road races versus a cross-country course, it's always going to be slower running in the grass and the courses that we have. Here they're going around the beautiful Birdsell Park. You know, it's also a windy day, and well, not really a windy day, but there's a wind that's going between 8 and 15 miles per hour. What's beautiful and what athletes like about our course, and spectators for that matter, is it's just a beautiful setting out at Birdsell Park. We're so fortunate to have a partnership with the city of Cedar Falls to let us have our practices there and our meets there. And it's a great spectator course. You're able to stand on the north side of that lake and pretty much look across and see the entire race as they go up on the south side. And right about now, Don, as they go around that part of the lake, they're getting ready there. You can see the lead pack to head up our hill, which is, you know, it's about a 350-meter hill, which is, it's kind of a gradual hill, but the length of it makes it challenging.
That's right. It's one of our strengths. I stress with our girls. We practice on that hill several times a week, so it's comfortable to them. A lot of the athletes and coaches that I talk to about our course feel like we have one of the more difficult courses on their venue. We like that because it's our home course. We practice on it. We know where the hills are and how to handle the hills. We train a lot on it. So we kind of felt like having, you know, this home meet tends to be an advantage to our team because we know what to expect and the girls are prepared for it.
And they're up just about the middle of that hill right now, and you can see
there's front pack of 5.
There's a solid pack of 5 there, one runner from each school. And then as you can see, the athletes will spread out as the race goes on based on their ability. And it's a great sport because regardless of where you're at in that pack, everybody has individual goals. There goes your runners, Don. Who we have coming up?
It was number 2. There's Jessica 3, Paige is 4, Madison is 5th. They're all, and then Meg is our 6th, and Alyssa's our 7th. So they're all right up there in that top 20 range where we like to see them.
Yeah, that's a sign of a great team, and there's an 8th runner for you, I notice, and also what's kind of unique about this year is we offered the varsity teams. We're at the time of the year where we're trying to figure out our varsity, and we offered the varsity if they wanted to run 10 athletes in the varsity. We're still scoring 7 and counting 5, and we can talk more about that here in a few moments. But it was a chance for some coaches to kind of see where they were in terms of their top 10.
Right, if you have a really good 8th or 9th runner on your JV or fresh off, it's a good opportunity for them to run with varsity and see how they can handle the pressure from the bigger race, and it's just a great experience. I think we'll probably see the same thing at our conference meet this year, so it's a good opportunity.
And it's important at that time of the year because we're trying to solidify spots for our district teams and our state teams, and it's just it's something that our conference has talked about, and I think it'll help us put those decisions in the athletes' hands. We have the nice ability here in our sport that the athletes can pretty much decide the varsity. We're not trying to determine who's playing better defense or who's running the offense better. I mean, you can go out, work hard, and earn your varsity spot by going out and doing it through performance.
And that pushing the athlete in front of you, if we have a really good 8th runner, that's going to make our 7th place runner run faster because they know there's someone trying to take that spot away from them. And same way with the 6th, 5th, 4th. It's kind of a domino effect. Each girl will become better if they know they're competing for that spot on their team. So it kind of helps us overall to have some extra girls pushing.
So there was kind of an interesting point. One of the good things any runner will tell you is if you go up the hill, there's likely to be a downhill. And in our course, it's a long gradual uphill. And at this point, you're looking kind of on the backside of Birdsell Park there, clear to the south. And that's a long gradual downhill. And that's another point where we need to stress. Athletes can actually run faster and recover. They just need to think about relaxing, lifting a little bit, letting the gravity take them a little bit. What you don't want to do is totally be braking all the way. You want to be under control. But if you don't utilize that little bit of a downhill, then you're giving away an advantage that all the other athletes are taking advantage of.
At this point in the race, they've kind of finished a half mile or so of area where there are very few spectators. It's the furthest from the crowd. Now they're coming back down into where the huge crowds are and the noise and cheering. So it kind of gives them a little bit of an adrenaline to push themselves back through this next mile or so where there are a lot more spectators.
And I think anybody who lives in that neighborhood will tell you we have a lot of spectators that come. There's a little over 1,500 athletes that are participating junior high through high school at the Rich Engel Classic. And we appreciate the neighbors' patience with us, as we know parking is probably 6, 7, 8, 10 blocks away. And we probably end up with around 5,000 spectators as this. As you can see, they basically run through a tunnel of people when they're in the main part of that course.
Right, I believe they're coming, the leaders now are probably coming up on the, close to the 2-mile mark. Not too far away from it. They're coming across the infield again, a flat section, and then they go through that short, hilly section right before the 800, right past the 800 mark is also the 2-mile mark.
So if you remember from the start, they came around, they had that first turn, and now they're going by that again. So right about this point, they've done that 1.5-mile loop that we've talked about. They're going to go around that diamond, and they are going to come up to the 2-mile mark that Coach was talking about. And at this point in the race, athletes are trying to, focus on maintaining. A lot of times our athletes, that 2nd mile is where you have to really focus on maintaining your pace and passing. You don't want to get too comfortable, and set yourself up to be in position to be able to compete in that 3rd and last mile.
Correct. We both coaches, we have team managers that get out and do splits on 1 mile and 2 mile to kind of give our athletes an idea how much they're slowing down, put a lot of emphasis on trying to have a very minimal amount of slowdown between your 1st and 2nd mile, because that's usually what hurts most the athletes the most, is that 2nd mile. In the 3rd mile, they start to sense the end of the race, right, and they're willing to pick it back up again, but that 2nd mile is usually the slowest. We're put a lot of training emphasis on working hard on the 2nd mile.
Right. And that's such a great point, Coach, because like you said, we do look at splits. If I have an athlete that goes out in 5 minutes and 30 seconds in the 1st mile, and they come back, and there's Mackenzie up in the lead, by the way, and then they come back in 6:15, they have a 45-second drop, then they've obviously gone out way too fast, and we need to make a race adjustment to even out the splits, which basically in the long run will help them be more efficient, stay out of oxygen debt, and run the best race that they can.
There's Anna Hurt. She's our number 2 runner. She's looking strong yet. Now they're coming up a little bit of a rise right before the 2-mile mark. Mackenzie is such an efficient runner, perfect running form. There's Anna, not too far behind her, looking strong.
Well, you've got a great pack there, Coach, all up in the top 25, all the way through 7 runners. And they've just gone by that 2-mile mark. It's not in your picture here, but they are now in that last mile.
There's Jessica Van Dorn. She's running 3rd for us. Caroline is 4th. Paige is 5th. Madison is 6th. They're all right together. We love the pack.
Yeah, we talk a lot about having run with your teammates. We set up work groups and practices, and there you can see the 7 varsity runners that are participating for the Tigers today.
Meg's not too far behind her 7th place spot.
And if
there
you
she is, Meg Schmitz.
Yes, she's running well, looking strong. But we have those packs run together, and if you can focus on your teammate, sometimes if you're having a bad day but you've trained with someone, you can focus on your teammate and know mentally, I can run with that person, I do it every day, and you help each other through. We like to have our athletes close enough, as much as possible, early in the race so they can really set themselves up in position.
This is Alyssa Neese. She's not too far behind Meg. She's our sophomore. She's a first-time varsity runner. She's, again, trying to push our 7th place runner to earn a spot on our varsity team. And there's Jules Fromm. She's a freshman. She's running 9th for us. She's doing very well.
So you took advantage in this meet, Coach, of running the more than 7 runners.
Right.
And was that because you're still trying to find out your varsity, or you just wanted to get them some varsity experience?
Well, our varsity's been pretty locked in. There's a pretty good spread between them. They haven't changed all season long, but I like the opportunity to give some of those younger kids varsity experience. Not that we think they may be taking a varsity spot away from one of our normal varsity runners, but I just think they will often run better when they get into a more competitive situation. I want to give them an opportunity whenever I can.
There's Mackenzie Michael coming around the pond that was just in your picture. She's just a beautiful runner. She's got great form, and she's so strong, and she works so hard at it. I've just been very impressed with her over the last couple of years, watching her run and get stronger.
Yeah, Jessica has a great race. She's ahead of the spot she's been. Normally, she's been a little bit further back in the pack, but she's having a great race today. She's up there farther than she normally is. I think she normally is maybe one of our like 6th, 7th runners, but I think she's like 4th or 5th for us right now. So she's having a great race.
And running so well, and it's always fun to see that they're not a senior, because you know you got them back. That's it's always it's great to go that journey with those seniors and have them come through, but you always hate to see them go. You get those relationships with the students, and you watch them improve over time.
And 5 of our top 7 runners are seniors this year, so we're going to have a huge gap to fill next year.
And that was Meg Schmitz that was on the screen just a moment ago running. Here comes Mackenzie Michael back up the hill for the last time. This can be a very challenging part in our course. You're at 2.5 miles. There's
16:30, our mile clock.
There's a 2.5 mile mark right there you can see on the left of the screen. So you're right towards the last half of your race here, and you're going up a hill. This is where mental toughness comes in. This is where your strength training comes in. And you can see how strong Mackenzie is. She's actually attacking that hill, which tells me you do some pretty good hill workouts there, Coach, because she looks strong. She's gaining on those other 2 athletes ahead of her.
Yeah, she is. She's a very strong hill runner, as most of our girls are. Like I said, we do that hill a lot. Practice probably 2 or 3 times a week.
There's Jessica Van Doren, our outstanding junior.
She will be a leader on the team next year.
And you can see the other thing that we have here is Mackenzie's putting a little surge in there. That can really mentally hurt athletes. That she was 20 meters behind those 2 girls at the start of that hill, and now she's 10 meters ahead of them, and they're not going to come back to Mackenzie, that's for sure.
She at one point in time was 7th in the race, and she's passing quite a few people in this last mile.
And right there, it looks like Hannah Hertz, looks like she changed positions as well and moved up, took advantage of the hill and her strength. And we tell our athletes all the time, you got to really compete up that hill, because you're going to turn the corner here in a minute. You're going to have that long gradual downhill towards the finish.
Right shortly after the turn is 800 from the finish line.
Yeah, and you can, you know, mentally that's easy when you get that little bit of a downslope.
There's Madison for us. She's, I think, running 3rd.
Madison Larson, yep.
There's Jessica Van Doren. She's 4th for us. That coach on the left is Coach Amanda Johnson. She's an outstanding athlete from Wartburg College. That's 4th-year assistant coach. She's all over the place. She puts in about 5 miles during those 3 races, just running around supporting the girls.
So that was Paige Cavalli coming by, and Carolyn Ross just came by on this corner. Here comes Meg Schmitz.
They're extremely fatigued at that point at the top of the hill, but they still have good form, still pushing it hard.
And, you know, they're looking to be, you know, in the top 30 or 40 of some of those 5 through 8 runners, but you have to realize, you know, there's about 130, 40 varsity athletes in this race, so you're talking about still being up there pretty high. And, you know, obviously Mackenzie's up there battling for a top 5 position, and with the way she looked right there, I suspect that she's going to be right up towards the leaders. Now look at them take advantage of that hill, Coach, just like they're supposed to. Here comes Mackenzie around.
She's flying down now about 300 yards from the finish line.
There's athletes coming around, backed up towards the top. There's Miss Larson coming down, looking strong. Very proud of her, Coach. I know how hard she works, and just a great character person as well.
Yeah, she had a little struggle last year with some health issues, some injuries. Didn't do quite as well early on in the season, but she still made it to state and competed for us. Now this year she's healthy. She put a lot of miles in over the summer, and you can tell it.
And there's the turn towards the finish. I saw Mackenzie putting in her final kick towards that finish.
Here's the chute.
And it looks like Mackenzie was already in, and no, this is Mackenzie coming right there. Oh yes, nice job holding off that athlete from Waller. Looks like she's going to be second overall. Here comes Hannah Hertz, and she's going to look strong as well, coming down here hard through this finish. I like that our course has a nice long wide finish to let athletes be able to compete, and we have a fence there with our fantastic volunteers that set that up.
It looks like should be about a 7th place finish for her. So we got 2 in the top 10.
She's 7th. That's outstanding.
Here comes Madison, another senior. She's running strong into the chute.
Madison Larson looks like she's going to come in 19th place. And I've noticed with your athletes that 2 through 7 group kind of changes places every once in a while, which is a good thing. I mean, I think that's pushed you. There's Madison coming in to the finish.
It helps make them better when they don't accept the position they're supposed to be in. They do a really good job about pushing each other and passing each other. With girls, sometimes that's a challenge. They have good friends. They're not quite as competitive as guys are about beating each other. So it's really good to see them up there fighting each other for spots.
So there's the key results there. You can see the overall winner was Katie Nimrod from Decorah with an outstanding 1943 on a hot day. Mackenzie Michael, great race for you, Coach, moving up to 2nd. And then Tigers finished 7 with Anna Hertz, 19th Madison Larson, Paige Cavalli's 25, Jessica Van Dorth 28th, Carolyn Ross 29th, and Meg Schmitz 39th. Well, you put 7 athletes in the top 40, Coach. That's pretty impressive. And the talent of the field, you can see great contested varsity results there with Dubuque Senior actually pulling out the victory. A 1-point victory over Dubuque Wahlert, and with you guys a very close 3rd with 81 points.
We're really focusing on Hempstead in our pre-meet because they beat us last week at Marshalltown, so we were specifically trying to go after their athletes, and the girls really did a good job of closing the gap and knocking off a team that was ranked better than we were.
So I suspect that out of those top 4, anybody could beat anybody on a given day, but I think it was a great night for the Tigers. You're obviously getting better. And you also have a pretty special event coming up that you're involved with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I do. All my team knows about this already, and also all my friends and family. I have been diagnosed recently with Alzheimer's disease, and I would like to ask teammates, friends, family to join me in my walk. The 2017 Walk to End Alzheimer's is Saturday, September 30th in Waterloo at the Riverfront Stadium, home of the Waterloo Bucks baseball team. There's an 8:30 registration. There's no fee involved. Just enjoy having people come out and walk with me. 9:30 ceremony followed by a 2-mile walk. So I encourage anybody that wants to support the Walk to End Alzheimer's to join me.
Well, with your impact and the number of athletes you've coached and the friends you've had, I think that that event's about ready to see a record turnout. So we'll be happy to support you.
I hope so.
We'll be back in a moment to look at the boys varsity race. Welcome back to the 2017 Rich Engel Classic. I'm head coach Troy Becker of the men's team, along with women's head coach Don Williams. We're now going to have an opportunity to take a look at the boys varsity race in 2017. You'll notice right away as you watch this race here, Cedar Falls men are going to be in white tops with our Cedar Falls logo on the front. Should be pretty easy to spot them and find them. As we talked about in the girls race, it's pretty important to get yourself out in position. 247 is Brandon Conrad, and 240 there's Caleb Burgess. There are two top athletes. Brandon is currently ranked number 9 in the entire state, and is having just an outstanding junior year, and doing basically everything that we thought he was capable of doing, and is right in pace to do what our goal is to maybe run at a first team All-State the position this year, which is top 15 in the state.
I understand you've graduated quite a bit of your returning team from last year, and you've also had a few injuries early on this year with some of your key people.
It's been first of all, we lost Sam Schillinger, who obviously was one of the best runners in the state and school record holder, who's now running at Arkansas. And we lost Josh Tim and Ben Eastman, and we lost it's just an outstanding senior class. We have 2 sophomores and a freshman running varsity for us here in this race, and that's pretty more unusual for a 4A school to have young people in there. As guys get older, they mature and get faster and so forth. So it's a lot to ask of them. What I appreciate is they're working hard and getting better. I mean, we're not a top 10 team right now, but we're certainly a team that's coming on and getting better. You can see that Brandon is right there running about 7th, 8th place, and Caleb is running about 10th place. Those two are older runners. Brandon's a junior, Caleb's a senior. They have some experience. Caleb has been improving every year. He has just been an outstanding captain for us this year with his leadership and stuff. And they're up right where they're supposed to be. And then you get back here and you're going to have runners that are a little bit more inexperienced in terms of varsity. Jens Jorgensen coming by there, ran some varsity for us a lot last year. And then Michael Goodenbauer's our freshman who just came by. It's hard to pick them out right there. But they're getting better all the time. Very, very challenging for a freshman to step into a 4A varsity field like this and compete, but he's doing a great job in improving.
That's one of the advantages I believe the girls have. It's not uncommon for freshman, sophomore female athletes to be running at their best. Where boys really physically mature a lot more each year, so you do have a time period, a little longer time period to get them prepared. And Michael Goodenbauer went by the half there in about 2:42, which is right where we want him to be. We're asking him to go out a little bit more under control to make sure that he doesn't run himself into oxygen debt early on and then get himself in a bad position. We also have Blake Ahrens, who's a sophomore that's in this race that went by there. We'll have a chance during the coverage here to identify him. He's run his first varsity race ever. He earned that spot after having just an outstanding race last week at the Marshalltown Invitational. So he's excited to be in there and excited to have an opportunity to do it. So far this year we've ran at Prairie, and folks at home need to keep in mind, and they see 6th, 4th, 10th. Most of these invitations we go to, like Marshalltown for example, we were 10th, but that featured 15 rated teams out of the 22 that were there in multiple classes, including the top 3 teams in the state. So sometimes you can go and finish 10th and actually get better when you're a young team, and like we are. Certainly last year we went there and we were 2nd, and we were obviously more experienced than we are this year. But it's going to be one of those years where we focus on improvement and getting better. Here they're coming by the lake the first time. As you can see, Brandon's putting himself in tremendous position. The runner out front is from Ankeny, and honestly, he's Tim Sin is his name. He is an outstanding athlete. He's not someone that I want Brandon even to worry about at this time. Maybe later in the year, but he's one of those athletes. We're going to let him run his race. I suspect that he's going to end up out there quite a ways with his talent. He's like a Sam Schillinger type of guy. We want Brandon to focus basically in this race and trying to be a top 5 athlete. And if he does that, then he'll be running well. If we can get Caleb Burgess to be a top 10 finisher in this race, then that's exactly where we want him to be. This is a point where they're coming around where a lot of the crowd noise is, a lot of spectators are cheering them on, there's a lot of noise. They're turning around, coming around the lake now, coming up towards the mile mark. This is probably the toughest hill on the course.
So this is, you can see the Decorah runner 423 is Andrew Kephart. That's their 3A team. Decorah has a top 3 team in the state and 3A this year. And that young man for Decorah is one of the top runners in the state in 3A. And here's the Ankeny runner that we mentioned, Tim Sint, basically going around. And then you can see the Dubuque senior, the Rams is the Dubuque senior athlete, number 708. That's Jalen Hildebrand. He's also one of the top guys in the state. There's Caleb Burgess. He's established himself right now. It looks like he's running the top 10, right where he needs to be. And then with us being young and a little bit inexperienced at the varsity level, you know, our guys are going to be back in a field like this. They're going to be back a little bit of a ways, and trying to find their pace, find their groove, find out where they're going to be. They're going Hollis Wilson, our outstanding sophomore. He's likely in a field like this, well, just in general, he's likely going to be our number 3 to number 5 runner most of the year. There's Michael Goodenbauer going by. But Hollis has really worked hard over the summer and put himself in a position where he has a chance to be an outstanding runner. There's Blake Ahrens, our outstanding sophomore, who is in his first race, varsity race that is. He kind of worked his way into that position, and again, we think he has an outstanding future. Also has a brother named Noah who's running good. Here you can see the Ankeny athlete has separated himself a little bit from the pack, in which we kind of expected that. He's going to probably end up getting the number 1. We'll let him go. There's 2 outstanding runners, and Brandon's right about where we need him to be in that 4th position. Now, what I'd like to talk to him about is you know, at that moment, I think he's going to be as talented as those 2 runners by the end of the year. He had a mental lapse, and he let those runners get away from him a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see if he can maintain that gap mentally and work his way back. But what we'll talk about is focus on during the race with athletes that you know you're as good at, that you don't let them get away from you at any point in the race. And that's a hard thing to do. There's Jens Jorgensen and Hollis going by. That's hard to do as an athlete sometimes as you're out there racing between 16 and 18 minutes, is to stay focused.
It's a bit of a challenge for a runner, a first-time runner at a varsity race. They're used to running at either JV or fresh-off race, and they're near the front where it's a thinner pack, easier to see where you're at. And their first time in a varsity race, they're often in the middle of a huge pack. It's a little bit harder to get out. Sometimes you get boxed in. There's just a lot of differences in the 2 race styles. So it's good to get that first race experience.
Right. There comes Caleb Burgess by. You saw Brandon turn the corner. We've got Hollis Wilson leading Jens Jorgensen right now. And, you know, I know Jens is a little bit under the weather today. So, you know, I'm glad he's out there competing as hard as he can. And he's obviously a very courageous athlete. He's going to give us everything we have. I'm going to be curious to see how that affects him. But
this is a good shot of our crowd right here.
There goes Jens by. And he's kind of a couple runners behind Hollis. Those 2 will work together and help each other throughout the year. And we're getting to the point. There goes Paul Pease, our senior, and real proud of Paul. He's one of the, followed by Michael Goodenbauer. Paul's one of our athletes who has come all the way through the program. He's contributed freshman, sophomore level, last year JV level, and now he's worked his way up onto the varsity level. Good leader, good hard worker. There's Blake Ahrens coming by. You know, honestly, Blake is running exactly the kind of race we want him to run. We pulled him aside and said, listen, your first varsity race, there's going to be some incredible talent out there, but we want you to hit your splits and run a good race that you feel good about and something that you can be proud of. Here's the Ankeny athlete. I think this athlete is ranked in the top 3 in the state individually this year, and only a junior. So he's someone who's a Division I talent who has the ability to obviously go on and run at college. And at this point, he's coming up
Near the 2 mile mark?
On the 2 mile mark, and you can see there's an athlete running 5-minute pace on a very hot day. He's going around that 2 mile at 10 minutes. That's a pretty impressive pace on a day like today. Here comes Brandon Conrad around the corner. You know, he's going to probably be hitting that 2 mile mark around the 10:30 mark, which is, you know, pretty good pace, 5:15 miles. And now what's going to be interesting to see is on a hot day like it is, what can he come back with on his next split? Will he be able to maintain his position, but also maintain his pace given the conditions? He's going by the 2 mile 10:35.
That position on the race right there, they finished a really tough part of the course, and now they got a nice long downhill, probably for the next third of a mile or half of a mile. It's downhill and flat. So they got a chance to recover a little bit, stretch their legs out, increase their stride length, get back into a little bit faster pace after the hills.
That was Hollis Wilson coming by, and he again, here he is as a sophomore. Goal for him today would be a top 30 type of finish, and I suspect that he's going to keep getting better, not only because of his work ethic, but you know, he's a pretty mentally tough, strong individual. And Jens has fallen off the pace here a little bit. Here comes Jens right here, and you can tell he's a fighter. But I look at his face. I watch him run in practice all the time, and Jens is obviously not feeling the best today. I mean, that's pretty evident. You can see he's tight in his shoulder. He's grimacing. I mean, I've seen him run paces a lot better than that. There's Michael Goodenbauer and Paul Pease coming down. Caleb Burgess coming down the hill, number 240 there. Looking very strong, as I would suspect on a senior on his last Rich Engel. He's representing himself well. Challenge for him today is to see if he can get in the top 10. If he does that, be very proud of that young man as always.
We really stress hydration with our teams on days like this because it's so important. But it still takes its toll, no matter how well hydrated you are. Running in 90 degrees with heat indexes higher than that, it takes a lot out of the athletes. Our times generally aren't as fast on hot days.
And the other thing that's really weird about this year, Coach, as you know, is we've actually had cooler conditions most of the fall, and now all of a sudden we've thrown in this week with the upper 80s, and our athletes aren't as acclimated to it. And we had to be very careful with our training this week because all of a sudden they're out in the upper 80s training and they're not acclimated to it. We got to make sure the hydration occurs all the time. There's a group of 3 Tigers together, and what we really want to do is work on, okay, at this point, let's try to maintain that together. Let's push each other. Let's try to move up together as a group.
We've had athletes in the past that have had struggles with some minor heat exhaustion, and it takes them physically out of their game for several days afterwards. Take some time to recover from something like that.
So again, we had mentioned that, you know, we are offering athletes to teams to run 10 athletes today if they wanted to, but we have 7 runners that count in cross country, and then they score 5. So how that works is the top 5 places, that counts towards your score. You want a low score. If you come in first, you give your team 1 point. If you come in 3, you get 3 points, and you add up your top 5. If you had a perfect score, you'd be first through 5, that's 15 points. But your 6th and 7th runners can help you by being pushers. So if it's a really tight race and you get your 6th and 7th in front of somebody's 5th, then you can go ahead and push them back. The key is the spread. You want your spread between your 1st and your 5th runner to be good, and when you have great teams, that spread is usually about 30 seconds. And one thing we're struggling with this year, and part of it's because Brandon's running so well, is our spread is a little bit wider than it needs to be, and we're going to have to continue to work on bringing that spread down. You know, we're hoping to get it down to a minute or so.
We have the same condition in our team. Normally we've been running, I think our first race we were 20 seconds, but as Mackenzie improves and gets a little further out front, our spread has increased to over a minute too. So just a matter of time though to get the pack back together, which I'm sure we'll both be there by the end of the season.
Yeah, sometimes your spread isn't good because your number 1 runner is so outstanding. But it's definitely something that we need to work on. I can tell right now, obviously our spread's going to be a lot higher than we want it to be today. I think some of that's because Jens is not feeling well, and he's obviously one of our top 5 runners, meet in and meet out. So I, as a coach, I look at that. I mean, we're human. Things like that are going to happen. I don't even want to worry about that. Hollis is just running outstanding here. For a sophomore, he's got his chance to reach the goal that we want, which is a top 30 finish there. And now they're coming down on that hill, as we've talked about in the girls' race. It's time to let it go and let it fly. Boy, the Ankeny runner is running outstanding. He's going to have a great time. But I'm also impressed that Brandon and Caleb have maintained their positions and have a chance to reach their goals for the race. So right now our top 3 are right in the position that we want. And Paul Pease and it looks like Michael Goodenbauer and Jens Jorgensen are going to be fighting to be our 4th and 5th. Here comes the Ankeny runner, Tim Sent. He's going to be first in the race. Looks like he ran around 15:56. Here comes Brandon Conrad. Love how Brandon's picking it up there about 350 meters out. He's going to, there's the Decorah athlete, who's again one of the best in 3A. And here comes Caleb. Caleb, our senior, Caleb Burgess. Love how he's building it up right there. And Brandon's coming around towards that final straightaway to the kick, and you can see he's driving, he's building, he's working his arms a little bit harder in his lift. He's going to take the corner and get a good push in towards the finish. And I go back to very early in the race, and I'll talk to Brandon about this. The Dubuque senior athlete had that little bit of separation. Notice Brandon ended up kind of on an island running by himself, and that's hard. He sees no one's around him right there. If he would have had a mental adjustment early in the race and challenged him to stay with that Dubuque senior athlete, which I know he can, then he's able to compete, and that's going to help him. Here comes Caleb Burgess in really hard, and he's going to reach his goal. He's going to be 6th place. Brandon Conrad ended up being in 4th place. There's the rest of the top 10 athletes coming around. Our number 3 runner's looks like it's going to be Hollis Wilson. And again, we're hoping for a top 30 finish out of Hollis Wilson today, and continue to think that he's going to improve.
Fortunately, the weather's cooled off a little bit by the time the varsity race is nearing ending. So it's not quite as hot and humid as it was for early races.
There's Hollis right there coming in. Good strong finish for him, and he ended up 28th. So that's exactly what we're hoping for, is a 28th finish out of him. So if you look at the results, you can see that Tim Sent from Ankeny was the champion, and then Decorah, with their outstanding 3A athlete, was 2nd. The Dubuque senior athlete was 3rd, and then the Tigers were 4th with Brandon Conrad. Caleb Burgess was 6th. Hollis Wilson was at 28th, and then you can see outstanding freshman Michael Goodenbauer was the scorer for us in this meet at number 4, and then our great dedicated senior Paul Pease is 5th. And then Jens ran a really gutty race, considering he wasn't feeling the best. And then Blake, in his first varsity action, went out and performed exactly where we wanted him to perform. So very proud of those guys, proud of their hard work, proud of how they're getting better. And there's the team score. 3A, Decorah. Again, I suspect they may be competing for a state championship in 3A this year. And then you have a Kennedy team, which is very strong. Ankeny, which is the top, one of the top-rated team, Washington Senior, and ourselves. So all those teams in the top 6 have been rated at one point during the year, and kind of like your race coach, on a given day, Jens Jorgensen's healthy, we could have been anywhere up there from 2nd to 3rd or whatever, but the important thing, as always, is we're getting better every day. It's a journey. Fight the good fight. Do it as brothers,
right.
And be proud of each other and what's going on.
Real proud of our girls too. They've worked really hard all season. We've just made the transition this week from our strength and endurance phase going into our speed work phase, and they normally don't run quite as well when you first introduce the speed phase of the training. So the times, again, aren't indicative of how good of a team we really have. but they're putting in a lot of effort, and I'm sure we're both going to see a lot of improvement.
Well, and the other thing we both appreciate is year in and year out, we've been around a long time.
That's right.
We've had some state championship teams. We've had some teams that weren't, but this year's teams for both of us have good people,
Right.
and they're
Right.
high character people, and they're hardworking kids. They're a lot of fun to coach, and we feel blessed to be able to do so.
Very much so.
Thanks for watching. Thank you for Cedar Falls Television for being probably the only community in the state that tackles something like this. It's a great event. Hope you can come see us at some meets in the future.
Yes, thank you.